Good evening, everyone. We've been told that some of the people sitting in the back cannot hear us well, especially when it's in English. So if that's the case, please raise your hands and just let me know. We can hear you. And I'll try to bring the mic a little bit closer. So welcome, everyone. It's nice to see you all. Good to see new faces, old friends. And we're getting close to Valentine's Day, next Sunday. I hope you're all preparing a nice gift to your special someone or someones. But this is what inspires us on this study about relationships tonight. And Valentine's was some of the stories. One of them is he was a saint, a priest that would celebrate weddings for soldiers that were not allowed to get married. So that's some revolutionary man behind the name. One of them, although there are many Valentines that are also celebrated. But on our study tonight about relationships, we're going to start, of course, trying to share a little bit of our studies about teachings on what Jesus brought on relationships, on his life. I think everything was based on relationships from his teachings. But he brought a change. He provoked a big change in paradigm in a time where God was seen as a punisher or a person in charge and a person that people were afraid of. A lot of it hasn't changed yet. I think some people will still keep this fear and punishment relationships. Sometimes we think, this happened to me because I did something wrong here or there. We still try to bargain. If I'm good, maybe I will get this or that. Yes? No? Some of us do. So what this man, 2,000 years ago, 2016 years ago, he came amongst us saying what? We're all kids from the same father. Was this new with the Jewish? No. We all had one God. But he brought this idea of a loving father. That was the comparison, right? So from one moment you are afraid of God, and the next moment you are allowed to be loved. You are enough as you are. You don't need anything else to be loved. You don't need anybody else to be loved. It's unconditional. That was a big paradigm change, or not. And then he comes and he shows us with his example, with his life. No? What are some of the things that he shows us on relationships? As a kid, 12 years old, he was left. I don't know. His parents were going back to Nether, and they noticed that the boy wasn't with them. So they go back. Where was he? He was at the temple. He was at the synagogue. What did he say? I'm taking care of my father's business. And then he keeps going through his life. He never got he was a man who was walking around places, teaching, doing sermons, and what else? Healing the sick. Who was he walking with? Who was he living with? Fishermen, tax collectors, prostitutes, sick people. And what did he say? He used to say that the healer comes for whom? For the ones who are well? Yes? No? The healer comes for the sick. The doctors comes for the ones who need health, who need healing. And it's interesting because when we start studying the Spiritism, Allan Kardec says on the introduction of his first book, he says, the Spiritism is not for the one who is fine with their own religion, who found their way. This is for somebody who's questioning, who has questions, who wants answers, who's not happy with what they have. What did Jesus say? You are the light of the world. That's in Matthew chapter 5. You are the light of the world. You are the salt. You are special. You're loved. God has your picture in His fridge. He sees you all the time. He knows everything about you and He still loves you. And what is the most difficult thing of knowing that we have our own light? Is it the dark that scares us, really? No, we usually are more afraid of our power than anything else. If I know that I can, I have to do it, right or wrong. I lose the right to be the victim. I have to move to get my stuff done. It's not God's fault anymore that things are not working in my life the way I want it. So our power scares us a lot more than our weak position, is it not? A lot of people, if we start looking at the healings that happen, did they all kept going healed? Was it all permanent? Most of the people got back to where they were before. It's a lot more convenient. It's our comfort zone. Call it whatever you want. But it's hard to change. We can get that push here, and we do it all the time. We come here, we get the passes, we go through the healing, and then we step outside of the door and we are back to where we were. Yes? No? The same thoughts, the same attitude, the same feeling inside. So when does things start healing, really? When does real, true heal happen? When we change ourselves. No? We gotta go through that. We gotta go through the next step. What is the next step? I have to change my attitude. I have to change my thoughts. I have to change what I'm saying. I have to change my words. I have to change so many things. I have to let my light shine. I have to get out. I have to show myself. I have to risk being hurt again, many times. For what? Is God going to show as this energy, this light, this intelligence, this creator above everything? Is He going to show up in our lives? Are we going to be able to see it? We can't. We got to learn to see God through other eyes. God shows up in our lives in other people, through other people. And if we keep ourselves close to that, we miss the message. And we miss the opportunity to relate. I think the virtuality of technology is great. I love technology. I think it's a wonderful thing. But we are also having a moment of separation. We are getting into our cell phones and we stop looking at each other's eyes. Especially at home with our own kids. I'm guilty of that. And many times we exchange text messages and we are sitting in the same table in the same room. Yes? Did you experience that anytime? Now, are we really losing connection? It might be just a change in the way of communication. It might be that. We have to go through time to figure out. But the feeling of that connection is something that we cannot lose. Doesn't matter if it comes in a text message, but I've got to be able to make my son knows, make my daughter knows that she's loved, he's loved. How am I going to do that? We're still trying to figure it out. But let your light shine. And then he comes with this idea of this father, loving father. How does he show that at that time? With the story of the prodigal son. So the son wants to sell everything he owns to go out in life, out in the world, and conquer the world. What happens? He gets lost. He goes into a place where he gets to the point where he is watching the pigs, and the pigs, and he's trying to eat their food. And he thinks, in my dad's house, no servant, even his pigs eat better than I am doing now. So what is this situation? What does this represent to us? We are getting so far away from God or from our own spirituality that we are so thirsty inside because we don't even believe in spirits anymore. We went through a phase where everything was material, right? There was no spirits anymore. Science would explain everything. And then we got so lost in the process of trying to prove that everything was something that we could explain with science, that our feelings got a little bit confused, frozen, no, in the process. We start going so far away, that it got to a point where we had to believe that deep inside, when we go down to, we are so down the hill that we have to just give up. It's just like, there's got to be something better. There's got to be a bigger intelligence in this that will take care of it. I cannot do everything. I cannot take care of everything. I cannot take care of everybody. I have to give it to someone else that is bigger than me. That's when things start to clear up. So, I decide to go back. I start traveling back to the Father. And when he sees me coming down the road, what does he do? He comes running to hug me. I've been waiting for you all this time. So, there's a message there that there's something that we have to do. We have to do our journey. We have to do our part. God's not going to do it for you. God is not going to do it for us. The Father is not going to come get me from the faraway land that I was to bring me back to his arms. I have to make that decision. I have to make the choice. I have to make the trip. As painful as it can be sometimes. But once we get there, we will always be received with open arms and with a big banquet. That's what Jesus brought. But that's the message that Jesus brought. It's not an eye for an eye anymore. You laughed, now you take care of yourself. Not anymore. It's not that idea anymore, at least, that we used to have. You laughed, you're going to be punished. No, you will always be welcome home. That's a big change in paradigm. How did he relate with women in his relationships? How was it? One of the big stories is the adulterous woman. So at that time, what was the story? Precisa mudar alguma coisa, Cláudia? What was the story at the time? So, adulterous women were stoned to death. Right? What did Jesus say? When they brought the lady to him, the woman to him, okay, she was caught in flagrant. So, the law says she should be stoned to death. What do you say? Very tricky situation. No? If he said follow the law, he would be condemning a woman to die stoned. If he said don't do it, he would be against the law. So what was his answer? The one who has no sins, throw the first stone. So he sends each person to themselves. So we are in a mass situation, but many people, after one thing, trying to resolve a situation in a violent way, and we are brought to ourselves. We are taken out of that group situation. We are taken out of that group attitude. And we are brought to ourselves to what? What if I were you that was there? So do to others what you would like them to do to you. So he gives recipes. So he was one day, he comes to eat at Simon, who was a Pharisee. So he comes, and while he's sitting there, it's a male society, sitting on the table, only men, and then a woman comes with her hair loose at that time. That meant, and she was, Luke says that she was probably not of a good woman. So that meant probably that she was a prostitute. So while Jesus was sitting there, she was washing his feet with her tears, drying them with her hair, and anointing them with oil. So he tells Simon is thinking. He doesn't say anything, but he's thinking, if he is this master, doesn't he know what this lady is? And then Jesus tells a story. Imagine if two people one owes 60 cents, 50 cents, the other one owes 500. And both of them, they don't have money to pay, and the master forgives them. Which one will love more, will be happier? And then Simon says, the one who owes more. Makes sense, right? And then Jesus says, exactly, you're right. So the one who has more sins and is forgiven will love more. So this woman, while I came to your house, you did not greet me with a kiss on the face, like it was a part of the culture with the Jews. She came and she kissed my feet. You never offer water to wash my feet. She's washing my feet with her own tears. You never offer the oil to anoint my head, and she's using her own oil for my feet. So for all the love that she showed and for all the sins that she has committed, she has been forgiven. The one who owes more feels more the love. No? Makes sense? So this idea of being forgiven is very new to that time. Maybe not now. And then he tells, what is his relationships in society? If we think about him, if we study his life, he was very revolutionary, wasn't he? Was he, when he asked, who is your neighbor? When he's asked who, he says, love your neighbor as yourself. And then he's been asked, who is my neighbor? And then he tells the story of the Samaritan. What is the story? So a man is going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. He is robbed and hurt on the way. So a Pharisee passed by and doesn't help him. A Levitian passed by, doesn't help him. And the Samaritan, who was the one who didn't get along with the Jewish, stops, take him to a place to be taken care of, pays for all his bills. So who is the neighbor in that case? Jesus asked. The one who took care, not even the Samaritan. So why would he use these stories? What was he really telling us? What is he really telling us? We all have our own Samaritans in our lives, don't we? Could be based on gender, color, church, religion, country where you live. We have so many reasons that we create amongst ourselves to not get along. We all have our own Samaritan situations, no? And what is he telling us? Make amends as you are on your way. Fast. Is it not? Because can you imagine when we start studying here and we start understanding the idea of reincarnation, of lives, of people getting together for a reason, of evolution in groups, can you imagine how much it needs for this group that is your family, your kids, your parents now today, for them to get together again in the same situation, or a similar situation, but at least living in the same household, trying to share the same closet or the same TV? When is it going to be? When are you going to have this opportunity again? How many centuries is it going to take for the whole universe work out a chance like this again? And we waste our time with the small things, don't we? Oh, she wore my shirt today. She wasn't supposed to. I wanted to wear that, so I'm not going to talk to her again. My own sister. Because our fights start with little things like that. It doesn't. We don't fight at home with our husband or our wives because we are trying to save the world. We don't fight for big things. In our daily lives, it's the small little things. Small little things that we don't let go. I'd rather fight than having this person leave his coat again lying down on the sofa. I'd rather have a stomachache than, letting go of having this toothpaste left open on top of the thing. Little things like that. She opened the candy and left the paper here on the table again. These are the things we fight. And these are the things that goes every day that we choose not to let go, keep giving us trouble to the point where for a little small thing that nobody understands why, we explode. And then we say, that was the last drop that made the bucket overflow. Why didn't you empty your bucket drop by drop before? For God's sake. And then he says, but I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. That was his message. Why? We know this. If we study here, we come here, and we learn all these things, we know that sooner or later, they're going to be next to us. Better be sooner and better be my friend. It's going to save a lot of time and effort. I had a movie here for you guys, and I was thinking about if I wanted to do it or not, but because of the song that Marisa chose, and I decided that it would have everything to do with it. So I wanted to show you. Let me see if somebody can. Let's see if this will work. I think the link is not working. Hold on 1 second.
Mrs. Lee, I believe you have some words to say about the dearly departed.
I'm not going to sing praises for my late husband. Not today. Neither am I going to talk about how good he was. Enough people have done that here. Instead, I want to talk about some things that will make some of you feel a bit uncomfortable. First off, I want to talk about what happened in bed. Ever had difficulty starting your car engine in the morning? Well, that's exactly what David's snoring sounded like. But wait, snoring wasn't everything. There was also this rear-end wind action going on as well. Some nights, it would be so forceful, it would wake him up. What was that? He would ask. Oh, it's the dog, I would say. Go back to sleep, dear. Oh, you might find this all very funny, but towards the end of his life, when his illness was at its worst, these sounds indicated to me that my David was still alive. And what I wouldn't give, just to hear those sounds again before I sleep. In the end, it's these small things that you remember, the little imperfections that make them perfect for you. So to my beautiful children, I hope one day you too find yourselves life partners who are as beautifully imperfect as your father was to me.
So I believe no matter what age we go, it's always a short life. And let's not waste until we lose somebody to start listening. Let's start listening now. Thank you. Good evening.
Oh my God. Thank you, Lina. For, I don't know how you do it every time you're here, but I just, again,